and welcome to my channel. So it's been quite a while since I've last chatted with you guys, and I'm sorry. Let me give you an update of what's happening in my life. I have officially moved into Seoul. This is my new apartment. I'm still working on getting things set up, so no tour quite yet. But I have a chair coming in. I'm really excited. It's been a stressful couple months. So for those of you who know, we had rainy season in South Korea and my apartment started leaking in, so I had to move into a temporary apartment for 3 weeks towards the end of my job. And then my job ended, and then I moved into an Airbnb for a month in Seoul because I was moving to Seoul, and now I'm finally moved into my apartment, and it's been a couple weeks getting adjusted to the new job and everything. So yeah, it's been a little stressful, but things are good. Things are getting better. Things are feeling more relaxed. So I want to come and chat with you guys today because this week I'm actually going to be doing a takeover of the Instagram for the TEFL Academy that I went through to get my TEFL certificate to come to South Korea. So I had been meaning to do some of my South Korea stuff, and I haven't actually got to it yet. So I want to do some today. There are a lot of video ideas I have, so I'm excited to get started. Today I want to talk to you guys about some of the things I wish I knew, especially culturally, before coming to South Korea. So this is for those of you who are moving to South Korea or even just visiting South Korea. This is going to be a little information about things you should know. So first things, one of the biggest things in South Korea and most Asian countries is you take your shoes off before you enter somebody's home. And I knew that, but I remember when I was getting off the plane, I got everything set up. My head teacher at my old hagwon helped me kind of get in, and then I was just not thinking, I'm just get my stuff inside, and she's like, you gotta take off your shoes. So even in your own home, you should have really get in the practice of taking off your shoes. One, because yeah, even if I ever move back to America, then I definitely will continue to do that because your shoes bring so much grossness. Ew. And so yes, number one was definitely take your shoes off. Number two, in general, Korea is a very hierarchical society, and although seemingly disrespectful in a lot of ways, it's also very based on respect. So you will not, or you should not, call your other teachers by just their first names. And that encompasses a lot of things I want to talk about is respect. Currently, my co-native teacher's name is Gina. I wouldn't say Gina, I would say Gina teacher. They have so many levels, so many words that they use in Korean to talk to each other, but you shouldn't just call somebody Jessica. So you wouldn't say, oh, Jessica, unless we're friends. But even then, especially not if kids are around. If kids are around, my policy was always, especially my old hagwon, Jessica teacher, please don't call me Jessica in front of the kids, because then it kind of authorizes them to be disrespectful too. To the Korean teachers, they'll be very Annie teacher, or George teacher, or whatever, because usually Korean teachers will have kind of a English name and an English hagwon too. Whereas they'll be like Jessica to me, and I'm like, nah. And in general, you shouldn't call somebody by their first name. As a foreigner, you kind of get away with it, but it's good to kind of learn some of the names that we call people when you're out and about. In school, you probably have to use English, but just use teacher or something like that. It's usually just teacher. My head teacher, I used to call her just Annie teacher. There's a neem at the end of the Korean of everything that elevates it. So when you're in a restaurant, sajanim means owner, even if it's just a random waitress. If you're driving, it's kisanim. And then at work, it's wanjangnim, buwanjangnim, 팀장님. There's a lot of that. Along with respect is Korean find it disrespectful if you hand them things with one hand. Now it's kind of faded a little bit in Seoul. I don't notice it much, but you should still get in the habit of, if you hand somebody something, you either use two hands, or maybe if my hands were full, then I kind of try and push your hand kind of here, your other hand, even if it's heavy or something, kind of make that motion that you're putting your hand in your upper arm area, and this way, here, give you my credit card, like that. And when you receive things, same way, oh, two hands or one hand, like this. Another thing that's big in Asian culture is just like in general, when you enter a place or to show respect, even if you don't say anything, the head nod. So, 안녕하세요, which means hello. 안녕하세요, 감사합니다, thank you. Things like that. Like even if you just see something, oh, when you get on the bus, tap your card, you know, nod your head to the 기사님, the driver. Kind of like you don't even have to say anything sometimes. Like that's like just says enough. Like, oh, respectfully, I'm saying hello or something. So definitely it'll helpful if you're practicing these things that Koreans have in their own culture, which you kind of can get by as a foreigner, but they'll have a lot more appreciation and thankfulness that if you make these attempts to do these things as well. Other respect-based things, Korea is a huge alcohol culture. People drink a lot. They also share a lot. They get together around food and alcohol, and that's how things, you know, kind of, that's how they build connection. So food is very important, and alcohol. So I don't really drink, which is fine. And the culture is getting better about people who don't drink, like, you know, not making them feel as pressured to drink. But anyways, if you do drink, or even if you're with people who drink, you should never pour your own alcohol. So they think it's bad luck if you pour your own drink. So unless you're drinking alone with your other people, you should not let other people pour their drink, and you should not pour your own drink. You should always offer to pour somebody else's. If you're the youngest person, there's a lot of things with being the youngest and oldest person in Korea. If you're the youngest person, you should be pouring the drinks for everyone, although it's not as big of a thing anymore. But there's a way to do it. Like you have to like use your right hand to pour the beverage and slightly tilt. And then another thing is if you're receiving a drink for someone, you receive it like with two hands, kind of like one hand underneath and then one hand this way. And then if you're, especially if it's from an elder person, and you nod as you get it and say 감사합니다. And then the first drink, you have to drink one shot. But also if you're drinking with the elder, you're supposed to turn to the side because it's disrespectful to look at somebody in the eyes when you're drinking, and drink kind of like, you know, drink it like this, like you kind of like cover, like you cover your face and the beverage a bit, and you're supposed to drink it with one shot. They consider getting the last drop of your beverage to be out good luck. So you drink the one, you hand it back to them, you get another drink, and after that you don't have to down it, but that's just how it is. And then like if you're out with one other person, they'll pour your drink and then you pour them their drink. If you're with a bunch of people, you can pour your own drink. Things with being the oldest and the youngest, you do not eat before the oldest person at the table starts their food. It's very disrespectful. So everybody waits, and the oldest person, which I'm often the oldest person, so it's a lot of fun, they eat their food, and then the rest of the people can eat the food. Or if the oldest person gives authorizes. And also Koreans tend not to eat the last thing. So even if you're super hungry, you should never eat the last of anything. So you should always leave that out. In general, unless you have a food allergy, if somebody offers you food, just accept it. Even if you're not going to eat it, you know, oh, thank you, hey, chic, or just like food in general, they find that getting around a group of people, sharing food is just part of the culture. Now, also in America, like when you ask somebody to come here, you're like kind of like this. In Korea, it's like this. Never do this to somebody. This, come here. Come here. And like kind of getting taxis, I guess. I haven't noticed this much, but I heard somebody say like you're not supposed to wave like you would in America, like, oh, a taxi. You kind of like, taxi. This motion is polite. Red ink. So in general, you probably avoid red ink, but if you write somebody's name with red ink, it's believed that you wish them to be dead, because the Grim Reaper or with the Grim Reaper, or like when they actually, people die, they write the information in red ink. So if you write somebody's name in red ink, then you're wishing death upon them. So especially if you're coming here to teach, very important, do not use red ink to write kids' names on the boards or anything like that. For eating etiquette, if you're using chopsticks, never leave your chopsticks straight up. It is also reminiscence of death, because during the Chuseok ceremonies and the death ceremonies that they have, they put the chopsticks straight up in the bowl at funerals and things like that. So when you're actually eating, you should never do that. If you're the youngest person, you should be the one that like kind of hands out the chopsticks and spoon. So you get chopsticks and spoon to everybody and hand them. If you place them on the table, you have to put the spoon face up, not like curved down. I don't know why, but somebody told me that once. A Korean was like, don't do that. I was like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Crossing your legs, especially if you're showing the bottom of your sole to somebody, is also very rude and disrespectful. So do not show the bottom of your feet. So things to know, using mass transportation, which I'm sure you will, there's certain seats you should not sit on. Buses, yellow seats and pink seats. And on the subway, there's a section at the end of each car that is reserved for the elderly. And then there's pink seats in different parts of the train, which are reserved for pregnant people. On the subway, a lot of times people do really avoid that, but then you get definitely some people who just sit there and sit in especially the pregnancy seats, and I kind of just stare at them like, you're like a 40-year-old man. You are not pregnant and you don't necessarily need to sit down. Avoid sitting in those seats unless you are, of course, elderly and injured or pregnant or a child. Especially older people, though, they might be like, get mad at you. Although ajumas and halmanis, ajumas means women that are married that are over like 40-ish. And halmanis are grandmas. They will be sometimes like, oh, like, come sit here, come sit here. Like, I have occasion where I'm on the subway, like, I'm fine. Like, I stand all the time. In general, they'll be like, you know, you should get out of those seats. But pregnant women also, it's hard to tell when Korean women are pregnant because they're so petite. So it's just kind of rude to sit in those seats because it's uncomfortable for them to confront. On the buses is a little different. You should still avoid those seats as much as possible. When the bus is full, it's fine, just sit in it. But just remember, if somebody gets over on the bus, you see an elderly person, a pregnant person, or a little kid, you should give up your seat for them. It's just respectful. Transportation, you should not talk. Or if you do, quietly. Try not to use the phone. You should not speak loudly, which us foreign Westerners is difficult. We are so loud. But Korean in general, they can get super loud, but as foreigners, we stand out a lot more, so it's important to try and use like a softer tone when you're talking with your friends on the subway or the bus or the train. Don't talk, almost don't talk at all on the train. It's very quiet. I love the train. But yeah, and if you need to take a phone call, do it quietly or go into like in the middle car of the train, or wait, or talk quietly, like use the headset thing and like just quietly talk. That's what I'll do. But yeah, so try not to be loud in general. You really have to tone it down. Other things you should know, especially if you're a woman, is that Korea is a little different, like as far as modesty is concerned. For Korea, it's not modest to show skin up here, which my shirts are always a little bit low cut. I just can't, I like my size clothes, just that's how they're made. But much lower than this would be like scandalous. Shoulders is a bit scandalous. It's changed a bit over the last couple of years maybe, but it's still like, you shouldn't show. But they'll wear like the shortest skirt possible, and I don't understand how they can function in the short skirts they wear. So it's completely opposite kind of the Western culture, which what is considered slutty and not. So when you're going out and about, like whatever, but especially at school and stuff, remember, no low-cut shirts. You can wear leggings. It's becoming more acceptable, but I still don't recommend it. You will get a lot of stares, and I mean, if you're up for that, but I'm not. I want to kind of blend into society a little bit, respect the culture I'm in, and not stir things. That goes along with beach wear. So on the beach, Koreans cover up like head to toe. They have like rash guards on, like and they go to the beach, they almost always have clothing on. So if you're gonna go to the beach, like as a Westerner, you don't have to worry about it as much, or someone not in Korea. You can tell sometimes when you go places, even among Asians, Koreans will be completely clothed, and people that come and visit from Japan will have like bikinis. Be aware of that. You might want to have some things with you for that, because you might feel uncomfortable and feel comfortable with the staring if you come and dress as you would at a beach in America or wherever else you're coming from. Also, PDA. There's not a lot of PDA here. There is a little bit like hand holding. Occasionally you'll see people kiss, but if you end up having a relationship here, it's just respectful to the culture to try and keep that kind of thing minimal or leave it for private areas. I feel like I'm saying you should change who you are, but it's just having a respect for the culture that you're coming into and trying to play with their rules to make things better for you and better for the rest of us. Not that the PDA thing is as bad as some of the other things, but if you're coming, remember they're a representative of every foreigner. So if one foreigner does something bad, then it kind of is associated with all the foreigners. So try to follow some of these, kind of keep these in mind as you're going throughout your day. Is in crazy versus stupid. So if you're teaching, especially, crazy is pretty much a cuss word here, whereas stupid, they call each other stupid all the time. So I feel like it's opposite. In America, at least I know, stupid, you don't call people, it's like so rude to say somebody is stupid, but we say crazy, but oh, yo, that's crazy, and it's not a big deal. But it's the opposite in Korea. So be very careful about using crazy. And then the last thing would just be, don't use Google Maps on Waze. Like, Waze can work near the bases, and in Seoul, Google Maps might work a little bit in Seoul, but you really need to have like Kakao Maps or Naver Maps or one of the Korean map systems if you want to get around easily. Anyways, so yes, like I said, these are all just tools to help you achieve a more better transition here. If you're coming to visit or if you're coming to live, you are representative for every other foreigner here. So if you're like, I'm not gonna do that, I am gonna be me. I mean, yeah, be you, but try to have a little respect for us, the rest of us who have to live here and have to deal with some of the bad reputations foreigners get for being disrespectful. That's all I have for you. Some things that you need to know before coming to Korea, or you should know. If you don't, I mean, you'll learn. But anyways, so that's all I have. So I will see you guys later. I hope you all have an awesome time with whatever's happening. I'm praying for you. And let me know what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, and talk to you soon. Bye.